Hi, and welcome to the Dish on Divorce. I'm Jennifer Barkin.
And I'm Leanne Townsend.
And today we have a very special guest. Her name is Heather Tannenbaum. And Heather is a divorce coach. And divorce coaches do all sorts of things, but I'm going to let Heather tell you where her focus is and what population she likes to work with the most. So Heather, welcome.
Thank you. First of all, thanks so much. I'm so excited to be here. This is such a fun little forum that you ladies have started. Divorce coaching. So it can span through an array of services, but basically I work with clients who are going through a divorce at any stage of the divorce, and I can help them to put together their divorce team, whether that's finding a lawyer, whether that's finding a mediator, a therapist, or whatever professionals they need for their team to support them. I can help them kind of sift through all the information and organize their data if they need to get their financial information to their lawyer and they're not quite sure where to start. I can help them break it down into manageable chunks and help them get that information to their lawyer. I also work really well with liaising with my client between them and their lawyer. And I find that that works really effectively in phone calls and meetings with their lawyer to help really reiterate to their lawyer what they may not be able to be saying, but I know what they're trying to convey from sessions I've had with them earlier. And I will often ask the lawyer, can you explain the legal ramifications of this concept? Because I'm not a lawyer and I cannot give legal advice. So where, for example, I might know the legal ramifications of something, it's not my place to say it, but I know that it's important information for my client to have. And I ask their lawyer to kind of explain it. So I can really liaise between them. And the biggest thing that I'm proud of doing as a divorce coach is I really help my clients to take the emotion out of their decision making. Because when we go through divorce, it sounds so silly every time I say that we take the emotion out of it, because I can't really think of anything more emotional than going through a divorce. But there's a place and a safe place for the emotions, but it's not in the decision making. You have to actually be professionally minded and free of emotion in order to make good and sound decisions for your future and the future of your family.
Well, and I know we actually have some mutual clients, and you've done a superb job of that, particularly that last, task you were describing, taking the emotion out. And, and it's interesting because I like to think, as far as lawyers go, I'm one of the more empathetic, compassionate types of personalities, but I still find it's very effective and helpful having you on, some of these calls with the client and whatnot, because I feel that you're able to step in and kind of help control the call to what they really need to talk to me about at my fee, so that then they can get off the call with me and deal with the rest of it with you and save some money on their legal fees.
Thank you. It's an important aspect, because when we start to talk about our divorce, and I should say that I've been through my own divorce. And so when we start to talk about it, even though, the client, or I can use myself as an example, we want to stay focused on the agenda and the task at hand. Sometimes the emotions get the best of us. We're only human. And so to have, a coach on that call to be able to redirect you or keep you focused is a really helpful thing. And I'm very, very grateful that I get to do that for my clients.
I would think, and you say before about saving some money, Leanne says about saving some money. If you can, how do I say this, get your client organized to speak to their lawyer, right? They're not calling their lawyer like someone like Leanne, whatever the lawyer's rate. But in Toronto, you're not going to find a family law lawyer less than $300 an hour, and most are a lot more. That if I'm calling for somebody, to hold my hand, that's going to get really expensive. So would I be correct in saying that you get your clients prepared in such a way that we're going to discuss A, B, C, D and keep them on track and focused?
100%. Thank you for actually clarifying. That's what I was trying to say, but I wasn't so eloquent in doing it. One of the things I also recommend to a lot of my clients, and sometimes I will help them come up with an agenda before their meeting with their lawyer. And so they will send that to their lawyer and say to the lawyer, just open this. This is for our meeting. And that way they can go through the points and it helps them really stay on point, whether I'm on the phone call or not. And more particularly when I'm not on the phone call, I like that my clients have that agenda and it's kind of a rough outline so that they can help stay on track. And when they're more efficient and effective at conveying to their lawyer what they need to, their lawyer is able to do a much better job of representing them.
I'm curious if you ever have lawyers who don't want to work with you. And you have a lovely personality, so I can't imagine that happening. But I know if
right?
If I had a client who had a divorce coach that I didn't particularly like or agree with their style or approach, I might find it meddlesome and unhelpful. And even just, for example, things like financial statements, like my assistant, my law clerk, myself, we have a sort of a process we go through to prepare financial statements. So I don't want a client having their coach prepare a financial statement. I want it done in-house. And it's not because I'm making fees off of it, because I'm delegating it out to people who are a cheaper fee. I'm just overseeing it, which I would have to do if a coach prepared it or someone else. But I'm just wondering if you ever run into that where the lawyer on the file, is not as open to having a divorce coach.
Yeah, totally. And every lawyer is different. And I always tell my clients, I always suggest them tell your lawyer that you're working with a divorce coach. And then I leave it up to the client to see how they want to use me. And I've also suggested they speak to their lawyer and see if their lawyer is comfortable. In some cases, they're not. But it's been my experience that the lawyers who don't really want my involvement tend to be a lot of the very, very litigious or contentious files. And I'm okay with however the lawyer wants to handle it. I can work with my client behind the scenes, taking the emotion out of it and whatever I can do to prepare them. I can prepare them for court appearances, not necessarily go through procedural aspects of it that their lawyer does, but I can help. Okay, here's what to expect when you start to feel that you're being triggered. Here are some strategies to do. And I've come up with a whole bunch of new strategies as, the pandemic unfolds and Zoom seems to be the way of court these days. And for your viewers now, one of the things that have been really helpful for my clients, write down a mantra or something that actually helps you, whether it's I'm strong enough, I can handle this, I've got this, whatever it is, write it down on a sticky and put it on your desk next to you. The court doesn't see it, but when you need to go to that for a little bit of invisible encouragement, do that.
That's a great idea.
Really good. So one of the questions I have for you, divorce coaching is a relatively new profession. I'm sure you say to people, I'm a divorce coach, and they say, well, what exactly do you do? Because people don't know. And, so you've told us a little bit about what you do for clients. So what's the difference between if I was getting a divorce, if I want to go see a therapist to help me with my emotions, or a divorce coach?
Love that question. So a therapist has a very important role, and a lot of my clients work with a therapist in addition to me. I don't like them to work with me instead of, unless they've gone through therapy and they feel that they are emotionally prepared to not continue with that. But therapy tends to focus more on how you got to where you are right now, whether it's going through past traumas, whether it's going through past choices, past behaviors to understand where you are today. Working with me as a coach, that's not my focus. I look at where you are today. Okay, here's where you are. It doesn't matter necessarily how you got here for the purposes of coaching. How do we propel you forward? How do we move you through the divorce process? How do we work on healing you after the divorce process? And how do we help you make those decisions that you need going forward?
if someone out there who's listening to this is looking to hire a divorce coach, what are some of the things that they should look for in finding the right divorce coach for them?
Good question.
That's a great question. A lot of people can call themselves a divorce coach, and a lot of them are probably very good. The first thing I would look for is make sure it's a certified divorce coach, because there is a certification and there is training that goes into doing what I do. And it's important, I feel, because I'm bound by certain ethics and rules, and I have, formal training in doing this. So that would be one of the things I would suggest people look for. The other thing, which is equally as important, I feel, make sure that this is a person that you can trust. Make sure that this is a person that you can have a good rapport with. It's kind of like when you choose a lawyer. And this is what I always tell my clients, because a lot of my clients are women. So, and a lot of them are moms. So I say to them, choosing a lawyer or choosing a divorce coach is kind of like choosing a pediatrician. So for a lawyer, for example, they're all well versed in the law, but you have to find somebody that you trust, somebody that you feel will have your back, somebody that you feel will advocate for you. The same is true when you're hiring a divorce coach. You want to have somebody that you feel comfortable opening up to. If you can't be completely raw and honest with me, the process isn't really going to yield the results that it can be. So make sure you feel comfortable.
And the training, you alluded to the training, and I know the answer, but I'm going to ask you so our viewers.
Of course, you know the answer.
Because you're a divorce coach too.
I am, and actually,
she's a certified divorce coach. Let's be clear.
I'm also a certified divorce coach. And one of the things, Heather was a little bit ahead of me in school, and I said, "This is intense. This is an intense training," because I thought, well, I have a master's in social work, and I had, done all my mediation courses, etc. But it was an intensive course, the certified divorce coach training.
Yes.
So, so you alluded that people should see a certified divorce coach, right?
And that's
I'm forgetting
so
what I was going to ask.
Because I know one of the things we see is, I find every woman, and I hate to generalize on women, but it is a woman, who's been through a divorce, feels that she's now qualified to be a divorce coach. And some divorce coaches out there are going to hate me for saying that. But it's true. And
mediators too.
Yeah.
I went through a divorce, so now I'm a mediator.
Yeah. And
I'm
so,
a divorce coach.
I'm wondering what you say to that. As you mentioned, this is Jennifer was just touching on the importance of, looking for a certified divorce coach. So just going through, I'm not going to, when you go through an experience, obviously it gives you insight and makes you maybe better at doing something. I think the fact I went through a divorce, you went through a divorce, it makes us better at what we're actually doing because we can empathize more with being in the client situation. But that in and of itself, in my view, is not sufficient to qualify someone to be a divorce coach.
It isn't, because you went through a divorce, I went through a divorce, Heather went through a divorce, but yet we were all married to different people. We all had very different circumstances. So to not have the training and say, I went through a divorce, right? Then you're going to, what we call in therapy, transference, whatever happened to me onto you, and you may find that totally unrelatable.
Well, the other point I'd like to make, which is really, really important, I find, is that one of the key components of finding a certified divorce coach, if you have a friend that calls themselves a divorce coach and they're giving you good advice and you're comfortable with that, all the more power to you. Wherever you can get your support, that's great. But be very careful, because a divorce coach is only meant to wear the hat of a divorce coach, and it's a specific purpose. If they start to give you legal advice, if they start to give you advice on mediation, this is where you need to be really careful and maybe step back a bit, because this is not what the role of a divorce coach is. And I am very, very clear with all my clients on what my role is. And I have clients all the time who say, if I go to court, I'm entitled to spousal support, right? And I say, you know what? It's a great question. Write it down, ask your lawyer.
And so it's so important, because, obviously I'm a lawyer, so I say it's important, but I know that like there's certain questions that I'm sure that you get asked. There's certain questions that I'm sure Jennifer gets asked, and you know the answer. You do know
Totally.
from a legal perspective, you do know the
Of course.
answer, but
course
you're
I do.
not allowed to give it. And so the people out there who do give it, who are not a lawyer, I think that should be a red flag for clients, that you're dealing with somebody who maybe isn't respecting the ethics of their profession and what they're supposed to be doing.
And we can get in a lot of trouble. It's actually called the unauthorized practice of law.
Yes.
So both in mediation, both in my divorce coaching, in our programs, they were very clear. You do not want to practice the unauthorized practice of law.
You don't want to practice
And by the way,
authorized practice either.
No,
That's a whole other show.
That's a whole other show, right?
Yeah.
But it's so important because, I mean, Leanne, you know, because you referenced before, we have some mutual clients, and I have asked you before on a call, I've explained the concept of what this is, but can you please explain to the client what the legal ramifications are? Because I might know what they are, or let's be clear, I might think I know what they are, but that's for you to do.
Now, when in the process should someone engage you? Like, is it when they're thinking about leaving, when they're newly separated, when they're done their divorce and they're trying to recover? Like, where in the process is the best place to have a coach?
I always say the sooner the better. If you're even contemplating leaving, or you want to plan how to leave, or you want to be strategic, that is always the best time. But I have clients at all stages of the process. It's just wherever you get me in your process, that's where we'll start. But if you can get me at the beginning, I can also help set you up with the right team. And you can avoid some of the mistakes that you may make if you don't have the right team, or, you know, a coach in place to advise you on this. For example, unless you're in it, and oftentimes even when you are in it, a lot of people don't know what a parenting coordinator is. You don't have to know what a parenting coordinator is until you need one. And sometimes even when you need one, you might not know. But that's something that I can say to them, here's what I think you need. So it's for lack of a better term, I can help you customize the divorce team that you need. So again, like, I'm happy to take someone at any stage of the divorce process. It's never, ever, ever too late. But the sooner you call a divorce coach, the better set up you can be.
And just for listeners out there, I don't want you to say what your fees actually are, but sort of ballpark, what are the rates that people could expect to have to pay if they want to hire a divorce coach?
I've heard divorce coaches range anywhere from about $150 to about $200 an hour.
Okay.
So very similar to an MSW fee.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, thank you so much, Heather, for joining us. I think this has been a really helpful interview, because lots of people out there, I think, could benefit for many, many reasons, as we discussed, from the services that you and other divorce coaches offer. So thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much. This has been fun, and it's always very nice to see both of you.
Good to see you, and thank you for coming.
Thanks you
for coming, and thanks for tuning in to our listeners. I'm Leanne Townsend.
And I'm Jennifer Barkin.
Bye for now.